first of all, thank you all for coming. I'm Mayor Jenny Shattock, and I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. It is really great to see that you have all come, well, you've come back, and that you're still really interested and wanting to be part of the future of your town. Just very quickly, I'll go along the row. We've got Raewyn Whiteman-Thorne, and you'll know Raewyn, I'm sure. Sam Marshall is Community Development Manager, yeah, from Council. Stu Edmeades, Katina Conomos, who has written the concept plan with all the input from everybody, and Craig Hobbs, our Chief Executive.
Three others along here.
Oh,
Ben.
Yeah, Ben Smith is Deputy Chief Executive. Ebony Curtin, it's all right. I get nervous at these things. So Ebony is our go-to lady in Putaruru at the library, and we've got Paul Bowden as our Economic Development Manager from Council as well. And we've got Deputy Mayor Jeff Gash here as well, and Herman Van Rooyen, Councillor, and Adrian Bell. Thank you guys for coming. Yeah. So we were here, just a very brief introduction, we were here on the 10th of May in 2017, and that was at the first public meeting where we started the actual talking about the growth plan of Putaruru and about the people coming to live here, about the pressures on the housing and what we were going to do about it. It was a really, really good meeting. Most of you were there. Were most of you at that initial meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, and it was. We went away feeling really, really good from that meeting. And since then, there has been a huge amount of work that has gone on in the background. And tonight is the culmination of a part of the work that was talked about at that meeting. And it's been going on behind the scenes for all this time. We've still got a ways to go to get us to where we want to be. But tonight we're going to present to you, or Katina, Raewyn, Stu, the Putaruru concept plan. And that's there is a saying, and I did write it down, if you're working on something exciting that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed, the vision pulls you. And I think personally that this Putaruru concept plan that we have here is a great example of this. And it does, I even gave it to my husband to read, who is not interested in local government at all, and he made the comment how readable it is. So that's fantastic. And just seeing firsthand the engagement from the Putaruru community as well during the development of this plan has been really, really quite inspiring. And this concept plan is a meaningful step forward, and it's defining and working towards pretty well just a sustainable and prosperous future for Putaruru. Basically, that's what we want, and that's it. And it's also about managing the growth and ultimately just a vibrant and appealing town. So I think there's a lot in here. I'm actually going to give up in a minute, but I just want to recognise before I stop, projects like this do need strong leadership. And I think the Putaruru community is exceptionally, exceptionally lucky to have such a forward-thinking, passionate group of people who make up Putaruru moving forward and Pride in Putaruru. And I congratulate all of you. I congratulate Stu Edmeades and his team on the work that they have done developing this vision for your community. I just want to say thank you very much for the work you and your team have done. So as Mayor, I am excited by the plan, absolutely, and the way forward, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing the feedback and the discussion that we're going to have here tonight. So it's my pleasure now to pass it on to Stu.
Thank you.
All yours.
He's
been the driving force behind this plan, absolutely. And he is actually a huge champion of all things Putaruru. That's what, over the years that I've known Stu, and I can just leave it there. So all yours now, Stu.
One of the questions we were asked in the very early stage of all this was, if Putaruru was a person, who would that person be? I reckon she'd be pretty bloody cold tonight. But anyway, for me, it's a real privilege to be part of a group of people that are so passionate about what we're doing. And I think the end of the day is that this is setting a benchmark for the district. This is about the South Waikato. How can we make the South Waikato better? But we've got the vehicle, Putaruru moving forward, to do this. So we're sort of hoping to set a standard for the Putaruru and Arapuni and Tirau, so watch this space. But it's been an absolute privilege to work with passionate people. And with the Putaruru moving forward, just to explain that, they were selected as business people, so they've got a stake in the community, and they are just as passionate as the private Putaruru. We've got Rebecca here, which we haven't introduced. She's our manager. Private Putaruru, that's Rebecca up there. So warm welcome to her. She's only been in the job a little while, but she's starting to warm to some of our sense of humour. But yeah, this it's unique for Putaruru, making Putaruru a destination. But we want to make the district a destination. So this is setting an example, but we can all do this together. And I don't know how many people saw Wayne Smith's documentary in the last few days. The passion that he spoke about Putaruru is something to behold. So, you know, there are a lot of very passionate people. He talks about Grant Fox and all those sort of people about what Putaruru was. But we want to know now is that this is a blueprint for going forward, and we've got to say to ourselves, in 10 years' time, if there's another 2,000 or 3,000 people living here, what will Putaruru look like? Can we manage it? Can we do it? And I think this says we can do it. So but with Katina, she's made a wonderful job with this. She's put it all together very nicely. But it's all possible at Putaruru. So that's all I've got to say. It's about a passion, and it's about enthusiasm, and we've got the people to do it. So, and we've got the vehicle, Putaruru moving forward, which the other towns haven't got. So we're very, very lucky to have that. So let's get the show on the road. Now, there's several things. Toilets out there. There's coffee and tea out the front. Exits out there, but make sure Jenny goes first, please. And me second. But anyway, yeah, I'm just thrilled to bits with this, and I think it's a blueprint, not only for Putaruru, but to help the council in their decisions over the next 10 years. So, very warm welcome. So now I'm going to hand over to Sam.
Okay, thank you, Stu. So there's probably not a lot I can add to what me, Jenny and Stu have said before we hand over to Katina, because Katina will outline the plan and the key content of it for you. So tonight's really about bringing you up to speed with what the plan says, and you've still got time after tonight to make comment or provide us feedback, because the document's only a draft, so we can change it and reformulate it if we need to. Perhaps if we've missed something out, we're open to including that. But I just want to comment a little bit about what the plan is and where it fits, because there are some familiar faces here from the growth planning meeting that we had, where Jenny mentioned that was May. Really the growth plan came out of when this plan here started. We were picking up strong signals about quite a strong increase in property demand, so people wanting to buy houses and commercial property as well, seeing some pretty significant increases in prices. So we came and worked with you and Putaruru moving forward. This is the council, and developed what we call the Putaruru growth plan. So that process has actually moved ahead, and we're working hard at the moment on changing our district plan to rezone more land for both housing and for business. So what you'll see though, this document here really brings everything together into the overall vision for Putaruru for the next 10 years and beyond. So that's where that growth planning work fits into this plan. concept plans are pretty important in terms of giving us as council some direction on behalf of the community about your priorities. And that's why it's important that if you've got a view on what should be in here, that we hear that tonight or just before we close the comment period off. Now, Katina was brought in to work with us to bring this document together. She's an independent contractor. She's got at least 8.5 years experience in this sort of work and working with communities and developing these sorts of plans. So that's really all I'm going to say. I'm going to hand it over to Katina and she'll take you through and give you, I believe, quite a clear understanding of what the key parts of this plan are about.
Give a Putaruru warm welcome. He's already looking at properties up there, I understand.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, and I just would like to, are we all right, Mike? I'm conscious there's a video camera up there. I just would like to commend the council and the community for this effort and this work, and I think, Jenny, you summed it up beautifully when you said about the vision pulling you through, you're drawn towards it, and I really feel that way about the work here in Putaruru, and I really feel like I've been ascribed to just sort of capture the wonderful sort of leadership and ideas and thoughts that you've all worked on over a number of years and just pulled it together in a document to enable you to talk about that clearly with others. So it's been a real pleasure, and yes, I have enjoyed very much coming to Putaruru. I do live in Thames in the Coromandel, so it's a little journey down the motorway. So as Sam said, what I will do tonight is just step you through the content of the plan. But speaking with a number of you earlier, some of you have read it. Can I just get a show of hands of how many people have had a chance to read this before tonight? So quite a few people. Okay, so I will, few people haven't. I will step through it reasonably quickly then, and we wanted to provide you with the opportunity to ask questions. So if there's something that's topic specific that we touch on and you want to ask a question or offer a further suggestion, please do that as we go. But we're also intending to have a little panel, that's still a panel discussion at the end. So at the end of my presentation, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions of all of us here tonight. So Sam has touched on the why. Why is a concept plan useful and important? And in terms of it bringing all the various ideas together in one place, it adds value in that sense. It's intended to reflect what you as a community want into the future. So it should paint the future vision for Putaruru that you want to see. And so if it doesn't do that, we really need to hear that feedback from you. It's also a really useful document in terms of coordinating planning, because there's a number of stakeholders involved in operating a community, the assets in a community, from social services to schools to the council and others, your business community in particular. So having a document like this, and if you're all in agreement or generally feel that it is reflective of your views and where you'd like to head, it means you can all sort of move forward in the same direction. You're singing from the same song sheet, and that's really valuable as a basis to come back and for agencies to plan from. It will only ever be a guide. These things we can do. The best intentions try and capture what we think will be the future vision, but obviously that will evolve. But without a plan, it would be ad hoc, and this means at least you'll be a bit more deliberate about how you go forward. So I think it's a really, really exciting plan for that reason. And the plan sets a vision, quite a sort of a bold and vision for what Putaruru wants to be in the future. And the vision, I guess, is important because everything else in the plan is trying to give effect to this. So that vision is to be a vibrant small town surrounded by a diverse and progressive rural community and a great place to live in. So also recognising that Putaruru needs to be an excellent service centre given the surrounding rural and commercial businesses in the region. And finally, the vision is to be a welcoming and fascinating place to stay. So that's for people passing through, for people to stop and stay. So that's the vision statement in the plan. And the way that we have structured the plan is, so we've taken that vision, and that was very much informed by the work that PMF, Putaruru moving forward, had done in this space in terms of that vision statement. We then thought, well, how do we achieve that? So it's one thing to have a vision, but how do we make that happen? And so we spent some time looking at what are the challenges and opportunities that exist in Putaruru, and then what do we do about those? So the plan sets out 12 challenges and opportunities, and for each of those it gives a bit of a contextual description, and then paints a vision for each of those about, well, in the instance of growth, what are we looking for? How do we want to see Putaruru develop? So that's how we've worded the plan. And then there's a corresponding action plan at the back, so we get down into some of the nitty-gritty about how to make it happen. So just to give you an overview of the content, this is, for those who like a bit more detail, I would encourage you to, you're welcome to follow along as we go. So in terms of that first one, it's on page 10, challenges and growth, catering for growth is the challenge, but it's also a wonderful opportunity that you have here in terms of that growth is occurring. And over the next 30 years, the council is projecting a forecast of around 1,500, an increase of 1,500 people in the population. And obviously that you've done a lot of the hard work already in terms of the growth plan. The anticipated increase in housing over that same period is approximately 600 houses. So in terms of forward planning around growth, the views that I've heard is that it's important that growth is managed managed well. So it's planned, it's staged, it's not ad hoc. That it's as important as attracting new people to your town as retaining your existing community and the sense of community around that. So actually several people I met here tonight are newcomers to the town as well. So you've obviously got wonderful new energy coming in and making the most of that as well. There was also a desire to see quality development with a variety of housing stock. So I think why it's important to have these things expressed in the plan is because if they're not stated anywhere, it's not obvious to others who come in and want to be part of that development. Also, with catering for growth, it's important to look at where the costs of growth fall. So we have expressed in the plan the importance that growth, the costs of growth do not fall inequitably on the current rate pay, but they're borne sort of fairly inequitably between the developer and the current rate plan. That task largely sits, of course, with the council and from the policy perspective. The growth plan also is mentioned in the concept plan. We haven't gone into a lot of detail in the concept plan about the growth plan. I'm mindful that we're talking about different plans, but certainly the growth plan informed this work. So it's wonderful that you've got that work in place, that 30-year growth plan. And for those who might be new to this, that growth plan identified potentially 10 areas for new residential growth. So, and as well as enhancing the business growth areas as well. And as Sam mentioned, the council is currently looking at the changes that are required to the district plan to enable that to occur, as well as looking at the capacity of the current water and wastewater stormwater systems and so on to ensure that there's capacity for that growth. So in terms of catering for growth, you guys are a long way ahead. You've got a wonderful plan in place around what that future development can look like here. You've got the capacity for it in terms of the land to be developed. So I think the first challenge is really more of an opportunity than anything. It's a wonderful position to be in. And in terms of the attractiveness for that development, as you well know, Putaruru relative to other parts of New Zealand is still reasonably affordable. So there's a lot running in your favour. The second opportunity that we wanted to highlight was the desire to have a more vibrant and appealing town centre, so encouraging people to stop in Putaruru by making the town centre more visually appealing. So we firstly though needed to acknowledge that Putaruru is a service town for the surrounding area and the importance of that, and that sustains local employment, and industry, and that's very important. So that needs to underpin activities in this area around creating that more vibrant town centre. But with the volume of traffic and thoroughfare that you have here with the state highway north to south and the east to west movements as well, with that major thoroughfare, there's a huge opportunity to capture more of that trade passing through, and I can see a number of you nodding around that. In order to do that, you've got some wonderful assets already in place in terms of visually distinctive buildings, and all being here, I don't need to sort of advocate to you about their virtues, but that those with some obviously enhancement and careful planning will create those reasons to stop. So this challenge and opportunity also speaks to the area between where we are now, sort of Kensington Place down to Main Street and back to the food court, sort of creating a more visual stopping point and clustering the tourism offering, if you like, around that area, and certainly providing a focal point around artisan food as well. Having visitor information located here. So with this is a really, I guess, chunky challenge and opportunity. There's a lot in this one, and there's a lot of the actions at the back of the plan really relate to this, this opportunity. So we have in the plan broken down, this is like for those who've got the plan in front of you, that's on pages, just jump forward a little way, to page 19, 20 and 21, where we see the CBD area down into precincts. And again, this comes from Putaruru moving forward, some work that had already been done in this space. We've looked at precinct 1, obviously being T-Rail Street, sort of the north entry of Putaruru, down to sort of the food court area. And the theme for that being the reason to stop and stay, so the visually attractive building and arrival point, as well as businesses like Over the Moon and developing that sort of artisan food offering and a destination kind of point stop there. Precinct 3 being Princess Street here, being the more local retail offering. So Precinct 3, the theme there is that local retail hub with services, the essential services that you need in a community and that you would engage with as residents, such as whether it's sort of banking, those sorts of day-to-day services and other retail. And then Precinct 2 is certainly that service town, and you can see that's quite a large precinct visually there, taking in the more industrial activity, but also recognising that it is also an entry point for Putaruru, so it also does need to have that sort of visual appeal. So bear in mind that there's a lot in this challenge and opportunity, and I probably spend another 2 minutes just on that, so I'll keep moving through. The third one that we wanted to recognise was the traffic and the need to manage that vehicular traffic. The NZTA are doing some safety and maintenance improvements around this area, and the business case for that work notes that there's going to be a 30%, they're projecting a 30% traffic increase, and with a 50% increase in heavy vehicle traffic. So obviously, you as a town already that has a high number of large vehicles, you see some of the benefit of that in terms of that trade and stopping, the people stopping here, and it's being a preferred location for trucks to stop. But obviously, with any growth and upgrade work that the NZTA initiate, we want to ensure that you, as a community, have a voice at that table, so that your views are taken into account in any such upgrades, and that upgrades contribute to the amenity of the town rather than detract from it. So that's an important focus for managing traffic in the future. Yes.
Welcome questions, I believe.
Yes, please.
Yeah, the pedestrian crossing.
Yes.
That's that feature in NZTA's plans for changes, I believe it does.
Yep. It wasn't in the business case work that I read, but that was more of a, I guess, at a high level rather than the detail around the location of certain pedestrian crossings. You're talking about the one near the food court in terms of on the state highway. Yeah, that certainly has come up a lot. Stu and Raewyn have raised that a number of times. And
we're hoping to put speed bumps on the stop, actually.
Yeah.
They need to get rid of the roundabout.
Yeah. So that there was certainly, in the number of conversations we had, there was a number of specifics around roading, around that sort of traffic flow that I know you've got sort of quite strong views on, based on your experience in the town and how it works. And what we did encourage was, in the first instance, to have that conversation with the roading manager at the council and get that sort of written up about what those issues and concerns are, to then feed that back to NZTA. And I'm not aware of this.
Yeah, no, that discussion, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if that answers the question you were having, Helen.
Thank you.
That's okay. The other opportunity we wanted to highlight in the plan was about buying local and the importance of building more pride around local shopping. So a couple of years ago, 2016, there was a survey done here within Putaruru, and the respondents, people who responded to that survey many indicated that they travel out of town for their retail shopping. So that we wanted to give attention to that as something to, as a work on. And you have some wonderful assets in place already to make improvements in this area with your business association, Pride in Putaruru. You've already got the Tidy Up team working hard at this. So there are some goals in here around enhancing that retail offering, and the business association certainly can have a role in this as well. And running by local campaigns and working around new sort of business investment into Putaruru. And that does link to the next opportunity we've identified around business development. So the importance of strengthening the existing businesses, but also cultivating new development into Putaruru. And again, with the affordable industrial and business sites that you have in your CBD, you've got a wonderful opportunity to attract new business here. And it's great that the council has employed an economic development manager in Paul to really, give some momentum to this as well. Also, under business development, acknowledged the importance of employment pathways for youth, for young people, and that was the next challenge/opportunity we wanted to identify in the plan, and acknowledge that again in this community survey from a couple of years ago, comments that we read in that were that it would be good to have more activities for young people, and we took that a little bit further and thought about that we observed that the more needs to be done to sort of develop skills and connections for young people and ensure that they're part of the decision-making process, so that they're engaged in the decisions that affect them, and that we have good youth participation. It's always a challenge. And I guess tonight's a case in point in terms of, this is not an effective means of engaging young people, and we shouldn't be talking about them without them. So that's certainly an acknowledgement of youth in the plan. Other one we wanted to acknowledge was recreation spaces and the utilisation of these. And I think certainly Putaruru has some fantastic assets. We're in one of them tonight, and you've got Blanchard Park and Clotra Park as well. So you've got some wonderful recreation spaces, and we felt that it was important to acknowledge that they are here, and that an ongoing kind of focus should be around ensuring the viability of those, so that they are sustained into the future, that they're well utilised, and that they don't become a sort of unreasonable financial burden in the future. Next one was around tourism, and this is probably where we spent a good chunk of time kind of having conversation in the development of this plan, and trying to articulate what the challenges were and what the opportunities were in relation to tourism. As some of you have no doubt informed, the visitor numbers are projected to, like New Zealand wide, are projected to increase about 4.8% per annum, and that's a substantial kind of impact that we need to be sort of ahead of and proactively try to manage. And I certainly, the observations from those I've had the pleasure of working with has been that seeing that increasing pressure, particularly onto Waihao Walkway. And the challenges around tourism, like balancing the desire to encourage people to come, but balancing the negative effects, be they sort of environmental, and in particular with Te Waiho, obviously also the need to recognise Raukara's desires for that site. So there's a lot of balancing to do in terms of tourism, and particularly tourism related to the Te Waiho Walkway. However, there's also a lot of opportunities in terms of ensuring that tourism brings benefit back into your town, and we've had a lot of conversations around what type of tourism is appropriate. I know that you've had people in the past come and speak to you on this topic, and where I see this conversation seems to go is around looking at all the offering of tourism products should be authentic and values-based, centred around people, conservation, the land, the natural attributes of Putaruru and the surrounds. So, and you also already have some of that developing around the artisan food and growing those, but also doing that in a way that offers sort of unique experiences and more high-end experiences. It's also recognised that with tourism there's a need to increase the accommodation offering, be that sort of small boutique scale or having something like being able to attract a provider and to provide a sort of more substantial accommodation offering. And just recognising that that tourism is one of those very careful things you have to sort of try and be in front of in terms of proactively managing it, because it can very quickly turn into sort of negative impacts and effects. So it's fantastic that there's a lot of conversation happening around designing tourism products that are suitable to this area. Closely linked to tourism, we've then put a separate point in here around strengthening the tourism connections within the South Waikato in particular, and acknowledging that Rotorua has a large number of tourists. I think we put in here approximately 4 million per annum, with Taupo having 3 million per annum. So you've got a large number of tourists in the immediate area, and how to leverage that connection and coordinate the tourism packages that are developed here with those other centres. So that's a real opportunity once the tourism sort of packages are better developed here to be able to go and offer them. I think in the Hamilton and Waikato tourism's, that's your regional tourism operator, regional tourism organisation, sorry. They currently promote for Putaruru the Te Waiho Walkway and Over the Moon Cheese, but we know that there's much more here that certainly can be built upon in terms of that tourism. So that's what that one's about. Number 10 was around Healthy Rivers by Water. The Waikato Regional Council has obviously a responsibility as the council around water quality, and that's becoming an increasing an issue that's getting more and more attention. Obviously, it's a complex issue, and the South Waikato District Council has taken on an advocacy role in terms of whilst acknowledging the aspirations of the Healthy Rivers Plan, acknowledging that there are social and economic impacts on the community as a result of that. So the council is advocating on your behalf on that already, and what we've acknowledged in the plan is that for those who are impacted, it's important to be kept informed. So that's just acknowledging the significance of that to this area. Second to last one was being relevant in regional economic development plans. So again, plugging into that wider Waikato, so looking just beyond the boundaries of Putaruru, there are a number of planning exercises, particularly around economic development and regional growth that are occurring, that certainly Craig and Medjini and others that the council will be actively involved in. And we felt it was important to acknowledge them in this concept plan to, I guess, just highlight the importance of Putaruru having a voice at those discussions, and it's represented through your elected members and your council staff. But the importance of Putaruru being presented in a good light there, and that's where Putaruru is perceived as a great place to do business. So that is one area where your assets can be strongly advocated for. And finally, also wanted to acknowledge that Wi-Fi is just around the corner, or just about to be rolled out here in Putaruru, and that there are opportunities that come with that. And acknowledging that there are impediments to use and to take up, and there's probably a piece of work around understanding what they are, as well as maximising the benefits that can be gained from having ultrafast fibre in the town. So that's the quick sort of speedy through. There are, in terms of making it happen, we've got 51 actions noted in the plan. It's a lot, and we did try and look at grouping them, cutting them down, but we felt that they all had some value. It doesn't, I wanted to emphasise at this point, it doesn't commit particular agencies to go and do those actions, but we felt it was important to kind of break this down from aspirational outcome stuff to what are we actually going to go and do to try and make it happen. So I'm not intending to step through those actions, but we certainly welcome your feedback if you feel that there's actions that could be listed there that aren't, that would give effect to some of the things that we've described in the plan. And this is me giving a plug to, just please don't forget to tell us what you think, whether you agree or disagree. It's really great to have feedback. So we have a number of feedback forms here, we'll pass them around. We'd love to receive that formally from you. And please by Monday the 18th of June, so another week. So that's my brief step through the plan. I hope that gives you a sense of it. But very happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Obviously, there's going to be quite a few questions, but before we go any further, I'd like to acknowledge the great boardman up there, the local council, agenda plate. You see, it's the big picture stuff, but we have to imagine what Putaruru is going to be like in 10, 15 years' time. I don't know. It could be a very interesting exercise. But we have to plan for growth, and the number of people interested in coming here, the number of extra school children coming to Putaruru, it's just amazing. So it's time any questions? Go to the stage. What do you get? Like to say anything? About this? Raewyn, any comments?
Yeah, there is one comment I would like to make. We talked about Putaruru being environmental and progressive. Over the last half a year or so, we have been lucky enough to build a new house. And that was mainly local contractors, the great majority. And it has been an absolutely fantastic positive experience.
That's great to hear, yeah. We've got, Adrian, got any comment, please? Would you like to make a comment, please? Just say perfect, that's fine.
Right, we're just going to open it up to the floor now for any questions from Katina's presentation or anything that you've seen in the book that you want to talk about. So we're in your hands now. Yeah, please, start off.
I would like to ask, who's going to be involved in redirecting the Arapuni heavy traffic, the Arapuni Road heavy traffic to State Highway 1? Because I believe this is going to be very important, and how it's done is going to be very important, because the present situation there is absolutely unsatisfactory. So the question is the council involved in that, or does it become an NZTA?
Yeah, I'll take that one. It's council and NZTA working together, so
yes.
all highways, state highways, are NZTA responsibility. Our responsibility is local roads, but having said that, we obviously have a close relationship with them. So point 3 of Katina's plan talks about managing vehicular traffic. we don't have the answers yet, but certainly it's on the radar in terms of how do we manage that traffic, where does it go, how do we signpost it, how does it access State Highway 1, across the railway tracks, all those things are being considered, but we don't have answers as yet.
No, okay, thank you.
Can I just add to that Putaruru certainly referred this on to Council about 3 or 4 months ago. It was raised by letter to us, and it was something we were really concerned about, so we're certainly keeping on it as well.
Thank you.
We can't do anything except.
Yep, thank you.
What about the big roundabout coming in and going out of Putaruru? It's horrendous now, especially weekends.
So, really, to be
I
honest,
mean, people are just flying through. They don't even stop.
Yeah.
If
So
you
the
don't
answer,
live
the
here,
answer
they
is,
fly through.
the answer is very much the same, to be honest with you. Something we're very aware of. NZTA are aware of it. I mean, there are no plans to change structurally, as far as I'm aware, anything major within the roading network of Putaruru, like the roundabout or so on, but they're certainly aware of the
Stop
issue.
signs, stop. Traffic lights?
No, you don't want traffic
No,
lights.
I don't like traffic lights.
You don't want traffic lights. That would be a backward step.
It might be worth also just acknowledging with these roading challenges, because they are sort of hot topics, I guess, is what we're picking up, is that they are acknowledged in the plan, and that's it might help with the advocacy for Craig and Mayor Jenny in terms of speaking to NZTA to be able to say this is our community's views, and to be able to use that in terms of advocating for the changes, particularly in terms of the direction of the Arapuni traffic coming that way. In terms of the roundabout too, I would acknowledge also the plan does talk around, paints a picture of a desire to see that roundabout down to Main Street and Kensington Place sort of treated differently. And one of the actions in the plan is to, I think it's pretty early on, is to have a sort of a scope what a different treatment there would look like. And so having that sort of it as more pedestrian focused would naturally impact the traffic. So beg your pardon?
You've still got to get the traffic
through. Yes, yeah, but looking at what do you want the primary focus of those areas to be? And there's some work to be done there to sort of plan that well. So acknowledging that the plan acknowledges that there's work to do around scoping what that looks like.
With the closure of the Mamaku line many years ago, and we're all familiar how dangerous that bridge is near the refuge centre. If I turn to page 23, it's virtually a straight line from White's Road to Domain Road. Have you ever considered putting in a bypass?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question. It's not on my radar.
We were told 2030 at least before it's looked at.
There were plans drawn up somewhere in the archives, probably 30 years ago, to bypass both Tirau and Putaruru. Now my question is, are those ever likely to be dusted off and looked at? In which case the impact on Putaruru and on this concept plan would be devastating.
Yeah, so again, I'll take that question in terms of the NZTA, and I'll preface this by saying that we've just had a change of government not long ago, and the government policy statement on the roads, on land transport, has changed quite considerably from what we've done. So you never say never with governments, but certainly in terms of the next 10-year to 15-year window, there is no plan to bypass Tirau and Putaruru. Could it happen? Potentially. And I think that's one of the key things around this plan, is that you want to make Putaruru a destination. Things like the food and beverage that make people stop are going to be critical, because otherwise people will bypass and not come into town. So I think that's a critical part of this future-proofing Putaruru, but certainly it's not on the radar at the moment.
Just to add on that, I live at Tāpapa. I've only been here a couple of years. I was born in Tokerau, but I work in Cambridge, and being in retail in Cambridge, I've had first-hand experience on how the expressway has actually improved the town, because it is a destination town now, and because it's branded. And I think that has probably the biggest impact on any area. If you brand an area and give it a reason, then Yeah, the rest follows.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
I agree.
I'd just like to say, yes, I live on Arapuni Street, and the trucks also come down Princess Street over the summer. Have been really intense, and thanks for bringing Mr. Corbett. Thank you.
Under the topic of cleaning off transport and what have you, but what is PlanTV's thoughts on how do we keep our assets in Putaruru locally owned? I see in your plan you put pressure on, want to put pressure on some of the owners to upgrade their buildings. We have a big number of our buildings now are out of town owned. And those owners are getting rental and making good money on our good fortune, but how do we make sure that they live up to the end of the bargain? Oh, sorry.
Pass it, Kenny's
That is the role of Pride of Putaruru.
Well, we've got quite great assets in Putaruru. Food court, hotel, I can rattle off a number of other buildings. They no longer belong to locals. I see in your plan you want to put pressure on them, but how do you go about that?
It's a good point. It's a challenge we have for the district as a whole. A lot of absentee landlords that aren't prepared to invest, they're quite happy to take the rent. And it's something we're hoping that as we progress things in the plan, it actually puts pressure on just for them to follow suit with the rest of the town to pick it up. And you tidy up, the town team are doing a great job, and hopefully that will reflect, pressure will come from onto landlords from renters and so on. But there is no easy answer really. What we do hope is that by driving this plan through, you're going to end up with a lot more property owners, whether they live here or not. A lot more shop owners create greater opportunities and more jobs for locals and get that money going around. So that's probably the best way I can answer that question. I know it's not the answer you're looking for, but it is a challenge.
Lindsay, perhaps the other thing to say, PiP and PMF are currently developing a database of businesses and landowners, and that will certainly give us a greater insight into who's doing what and how things are going. It'll probably take the best part of a year before it's complete. It's quite a big job. And of course it's a changing thing too, because businesses do change. The out-of-town owners are a huge concern, but I will say that we are in contact with a few of them at the moment, and certainly trying to keep some information out there about the development of this, because we see this as actually having some impact on their land and their buildings. So
I think the plan's a marvellous plan, and if we go forward and Putaruru does really well, I'd like to see that money come in back into Putaruru rather than, and it's a shame when you see it going out of town.
Just want to add a couple of, ideally we'll see Pride in Putaruru with the work that Raewyn's talking about, with the engagement with the businesses, encouraging people to look after those properties. There are a couple of things that we've been doing as council though, and one of them we did introduce a bylaw called the Property Nuisance and Maintenance Bylaw. So that's kind of the sticky end of the, chasing people to do things, and it's only really a last resort, but it does give us greater ability where people seriously just ignore their property and create a genuine nuisance or a problem on their site that we can actually move in and push them, I guess, to tidy up a bit more. We don't want to use that unless we really need to. We have made some phone calls as well to property owners that have been probably more in Tokoroa than Putaruru, but there's a couple in Putaruru that we're working on to actually encourage owners that are clearly not looking after buildings to think about whether they want to continue to own them or potentially clean them up. And just by having some of those conversations, we've had some successes with properties then going on the market and being bought and improved.
I don't think you can stop landowner people selling their buildings and it being bought from out of town. We don't have that authority to stop that. But I think what Raewyn's saying with the development of the database that's being developed, I think involving them and working with those landlords, you'll get a good outcome there because they become involved and engaged.
Fair to say that, sorry, just as a purely speculation, there's a lot of pressure coming on with earthquake coming up.
Yep.
So a lot of the builders in town, correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, but a lot of the builders in town probably are fairly low on the earthquake standards code. And that's going to make it hard for owners that have sat on it for a long period of time to do something with those buildings going forward. They either have to be committed to doing something proactive in this area, or they're going to look at quitting them. And my guess is that you'll see stock come off the market in the next couple of years as that pressure comes in.
And I think the other thing
that's
too
a good
is
point,
some of the out-of-town owners are now saying they're seeing this sort of thing happening. And they're saying, well, all of a sudden the value of my building's going to go up.
Yeah.
Let's get into it and let's step up the standard. So I think that's what we're going to do, is we're going to set a new level which people are going to aspire to rather than go down to. Yeah.
Great.
So Gray, on one of the councillors, I'm going to ask a question. I want to hear some feedback from Pride and Putaruru. It's the same question I asked in the council chamber last week. Fantastic job, fantastic plan. If you look at the 5 or 6 areas that we're looking at developing, there's sort of going to be a trade-off between, you know, all at once and the cost of doing that in terms of our wastewater and water and all those things versus doing a few less. And you see what I'm saying? If you have lots of choice and all the 5 areas all go, you know, fairly quickly, that's a lot more cost versus can you pick 2 or 3 of them or 1 of them, or, you know, those are the kind of debates in council we're going to have. And so I'm interested in feedback from Pride and Putaruru and community about the 5 areas that have been designated on the map here. How fast do they need to come in? What is the trade-offs in terms of cost versus having lots of choice and lots of potential areas as soon as possible to develop in town? Anyone got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I consider when you look at the plan, it's different areas, but some are going to be much easier to develop from a council point of view and a town point of view, so that's where you'd start, obviously. You know, from roading and sewage, water, all that sort of thing. So some areas are going to be easier to engage with than others. I think with the council we'll set out those priorities.
And you guys are relaxed about that? You don't have a sort of a...
Very much so, yes. Yeah. And we've got to commend the council for the way Ben has done this and got it all together. It's brilliant. Yeah. We've made a huge step forward, we really are.
Yep. I just wanted to point out here that this plan that we worked with the community on, part of what this is the growth plan, this is on page 23. So this is the plan that we really talk about identifying new land for development for business and housing purposes. What we're currently working on, this is the 30-year plan. What we're doing right now is essentially reducing, you know, picking areas within all of these wider areas that we do believe are relatively cost effective to service and can be serviced easily, because this is the long-term plan. So what you'll see come out in the next round of consultation will be a reduced version of the plan that's on page 23 in terms of the amount of area that will actually be rezoned. And I know there's some landowners here like Matt and others tonight. We'll be coming back out to have some further discussions with landowners. I think it's actually in the next fortnight to talk about what areas are currently being proposed for the rezoning.
There's a question.
What exactly is getting, in all these plans, what are you working on now? Anything specific?
So probably the biggest project that has immediately come out of this whole process is the identification. Essentially, it's over 100 hectares of land on the fringe of Putaruru. And that was the big plan, if you like. We're identifying parts of that and rezoning it. So, in a simple sense, what that does is make it easier to do a subdivision and get new sections created and sold on the market, and some new business land as well that will make it easier for people to come and buy a piece of land and start a business here. So those sort of processes take a lot of work even at the council level, but the councillors and Mayor Jenny and others have given us as staff the okay to make that one happen. It's certainly a big piece of work with a lot of energy going into it at the moment. The water park upgrade. Yeah, so there's $400,000 going into the area that Katina mentioned. That's the water park upgrade adjacent to the food court. So council just 2 weeks ago has signed off on that amount for Tara.
And that's starting 1st of July
financial year, so that's quite soon. The planning for that will start.
So it's important there that we just mentioned too that the thinking in this plan talks about what other benefits could you get from upgrading that particular water park area. What could Kensington Street be, for example, in terms of a better area for some car parking or some other uses? What could the adjoining food court be? So we wanted to put a bit of thought into how we can get some wider benefits out of that upgrade of the water park.
And what are you doing to do something between the main shopping centre and the one round over the railway line? Because most people you talk to, you say there's a shopping centre around there. Oh, never knew that. They just zoom past.
One of the things to remember is that this is still in draft form, and this meeting is about consultation with our community. So in the sense of not actually doing anything now, apart from what council have approved money for, we're actually waiting for community to say, yes, this is the document that we go for, and then we'll look at each one of those areas to prioritise what's really important. And I agree with you, how we connect that area, particularly if we go down attracting tourism, artisan type concept, how we do that is really key to the development of our town. So we need to know what the community is saying so that we can take the next step. We can only put this together. We need to hear from you. So, and we'll be having meetings, we'll be asking you to come and contribute to the water park ideas and all of that sort of stuff. So just feel free to be really part of it, because we're only a group that represents our community, but we need the voice of the community as well. Otherwise, it's like Jenny said, then we're all on board and we're all going forward. Otherwise, there's a bit of pulling to and from. We don't want that. So, yeah, good question.
Any other questions, comments?
Are you allowed to speak?
It's dangerous.
I've been in Putaruru for nearly 50 years, and this is the most exciting thing that I've seen in my 50 years in Putaruru. Councils build on old councils, and as Gordon was doing his, and as my administration did, we were fighting to stop Putaruru, Tokoroa and South Waikato dying. And we were facing that thing called amalgamation, and we were fighting that, and that was our worry. Now this new council was able to look at it. What is frankly here? A new era. Over the last couple of weeks, I've actually had people come in to do some interviews, and I've been interviewed by a charming young lady from the Alexander Turnbull Library, talking about Putaruru, me in the district for 50 years, and what was the most exciting thing about Putaruru, and why was I still in Putaruru, and what did I see about Putaruru? And my answer was, I don't believe that there is a more positive community around than that which is in Putaruru. And that positivity we saw when 200 people were at the meeting when this thing started, and the positivity that I see, from this council believing in selling the district, and also the pride in Putaruru and Putaruru going forward. To Stu and your team to have that positivity, but you brought along a most positive community with you has been absolutely fantastic. I read of this and think, my God, why didn't we think about that? You know, that, as I look here, we had a chance. I had our chance, but we were terrified. When you talk about enhanced camper van, did you notice in the paper that down in the South Island, freedom camping, everybody wants to get rid of them? The small town of Lumsden that has one pub and one Foursquare has said we will welcome camper vans. They have 100 a day coming into their town. So they saw an opportunity, grasped it, changed it, and what we could do. We used to have a caravan park up at Glenshee Park. So congratulations to Council, congratulations to Pride in Putaruru and Putaruru going forward. This is exciting, get going, and yeah, I promise not to moan.
Neil, we welcome freedom camping as well.
We were the first district in the country to, on the camper van booklet, to be a district-friendly one.
We were.
You know, we just haven't capitalised on it yet. But what do camper vans want? They want laundromats, a place to have a coffee, and a dump station.
A dump station.
A dump thing. And we've got that, and we've also got 3 laundromats. And if they stop in town for 3 hours at the laundromat, they're going to walk the town, buy coffee and something else. Let's not ignore them. And the only thing you haven't got in here is my bloody cycle way over to Rotorua.
Gray, you can champion that one.
Yeah, good on you, Neil. Yeah.
All right. Are there any more comments? Thank you for that, Neil. I appreciate those positive comments. Thank you. And what you say is so very true. With you and Gordon, you were mayors of a declining population, and that brought with it huge, huge difficulties and about the spread of the rates. And I have been lucky, although it does bring its own challenges as well, of actually addressing the growth in our community. People are just more positive when things are happening well. But as I say, it also brings challenges, and we need to be looking, when we're doing our growth planning and looking for more residential sections, we are going to have to look at our infrastructure and check the capacity of that and address it if there are any issues, and that all costs money. So swings and roundabouts, but it's fantastic what Pride and Putaruru moving forward are doing here, that's for sure.
Think of anything, please, we need, right, it's on Survey Monkey too, isn't it? Greg?
Yes, correct. Oh. Yeah, no, I was just thinking about the branding. It says develop town branding for use by businesses. And I think, Stu, you said at the beginning something about perhaps joining in with T-Rail and Tokoroa and other areas, Arapuni. Is there a branding concept for the whole area, as well as just say Putaruru for businesses?
Love it, discover it, live it, love it.
Yeah, that's the strap line we use.
It's the strap line, isn't it?
Yeah. But we are in the process of, we had a marketing officer employed some time ago. He left us recently. We were looking for a new person at the moment. Paul's brief as well as Economic Development Manager and working with Sam as GM of Community. Their brief will be to look to develop a full-blown marketing plan for the district, which include branding both district-wide and town, by identity of town. So that will be something that we'll work on in the future.
Yeah, we're going to focus now on getting some promotional action underway based on what Craig is saying from a promotional point of view. And we've definitely identified the need as one of our projects to do a comprehensive brand review. But we've pushed that out a couple of years to allow us to actually get on and do some promotional. We do have some strategy in place, but we could definitely benefit from an overall review.
I know I said work in retail too, and so many people I see who visit Cambridge are visiting the wider area, and they're often just through chit-chat saying, oh, you know, what else is there to see and do around here? Yeah. I rattle off a list and I say you could do a round trip from there to there to there to there to there, and it links all of this area, much like we went to Adelaide, the Barossa Valley, little valley villages, and something everyone.
Got a man that's going to do a brewery for us, so let's drop into Putaruru, okay? No names.
People just don't know about it.
Yeah.
I'll just say that as a staff, I'm relatively new here, but I think that's something so many people probably pass through this district and have no idea what's actually here.
Other
so,
than the
yeah, and I mean
and the river trails, I think.
Yes. Yeah, so there's
an opportunity there.
No, I think the opportunity is with that water park to make a statement so that mum and dad driving through can say, and the kids will say, Dad, stop, we need to have a look at this. So therefore we've got a chance to tell our story about cows and milk and all that sort of stuff, because we've got a lot to celebrate.
I know we talk a lot about plans, I don't want to confuse tonight, but I'll say that
right,
we won't even say its name because it's long, but we're in a process when we're working with the Waitomo district, the Otahonga district and us, right? And some people might say, well, what's the common things between us? But there are some commonality, and I won't say too much about it other than it's been kicked off essentially at a government and a ministerial level with the ultimate aim of seeing those 3 districts get a bit more of the pie in terms of government funding as well. So we believe we're going to participate in that and we're going to represent our district in it. But one of those outcomes is already starting to look like how do we promote ourselves better. Katina talked about all the tourists and the millions of them that are in the sort of surrounding area but not necessarily staying here. So we think one of the outcomes of that other plan could be some support for us as a district to try and maximise people coming here. I can't promise the detail yet, but we're in a process that could lead to some of that getting funded.
So I think we're in for a pretty exciting time. Very exciting. So, you know, I mean, yes, some wise men said to me once, leadership is about enthusiasm. We've got a ton of it here, so we're so grateful for that enthusiasm. So please, we need your comments. Anything you can suggest is going to make this better, even better than what it is, we need to know. So please, write it.